because that's what we have. So it's a matter of us all pulling together and kind of triaging and sending the information out there.
Thanks, Roseanne. I want to make sure that what we do is hear from everyone what it is that they need from us. There's a lot of details that we can offer, but I think it's much more important for everyone who's joined us one by one to tell us their current situation, kind of state of affairs, and what it is that they need help with. And if we're good with that, to that end, I'm just going to deviate and kick off with Bart and ask Bart Charlo if he would just kind of identify himself quickly, his responsibilities, and then help us understand the situation that you're working within.
Okay, great, thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, first of all, let me say that there are three things I want to cover for you. One is what's immediately available. The second is what you can do to help. And the third is what might be available long-term. So immediately available, Samaritan House, and I'm the CEO there, is your central anti-poverty agency for San Mateo County. And we have all kinds of essential services. So we are open for business. The key here is to know that we've had to close some operations, Kids Closet, the Vita Tax Program, and the Worker Resource Center. But the ones that are open right now to any of the residents in the county who need it, and you know, some of your employees, some of your folks are going to be in a category they never dreamed of being in. So the main ones that are open, all of our food services are open and operating. That includes our dining room, which is now really a takeout operation located in San Mateo. It includes mobile meals, which sends food out to homes to those who are shut in. It includes a variety of ways that we distribute food, our pantries, etc. All kinds of precautions are in place so that there's minimal handling of food and minimal contact. It's a little different from the way we usually operate. But if you need food, people need food, they should be calling Samaritan House. We continue to provide our health services through our two health clinics, the one that's in San Mateo and the one that's in Redwood City, again, open to any county resident who happens not to have insurance, not to have coverage. We are operating more on a distance model. So we're trying to keep people from coming in unless they really need to come in. But it's an outpatient model and you can just call in for appointments. They'll screen you. And if it's appropriate, they'll do either telehealth or they'll have you come in for services. So that's available. Most of our services involve case management, which is all sorts of supportive things like rental assistance, utility assistance, the things that prevent homelessness and keep people whole. And a lot more people are needing this and are gonna need this into the future. That is all operating. Again, we're minimizing physical contact, but our service centers are open. I suggest you have people call our main service number, and Joanne has this and can distribute this or post this for all of you so you know where to go. Now, what we need from you, if you have it, is in-kind supplies and volunteer labor. We are primarily a volunteer organization, and a lot of our volunteers who are regular, we're seniors, and you guess what that means. That means folks like me, shut in. I'm sitting here on the other side of Foster City from Joanne, and yeah, there you go. And I won't meet you on the street. So we've lost a lot of that labor, and what we need is folks who are not in a risk category to call in or go into our website and volunteer. And I ask you to be patient with us and with all of the nonprofits who use volunteers, simply because we're managing all of the flow of the many volunteers we regularly have who can't come in, reassigning people who can, and then trying to get to the new folks. So just be patient, but you are needed in that regard. If you have, through your business, packaged foods, not foods that are unpackaged, there's a variety of toiletries we need, sanitary supplies, etc. There's a whole list that Joanne has and can make available to you, or you can find on our website. Donations of that kind are going to go a long way right now for people who don't have it and who need it. And we can get those things distributed. So those are the things we need from you. Long-term, as was mentioned by Roseanne, we are set up to do a lot of monetary distribution to assist people in living successfully in the county. So we distribute funds for the San Francisco Chronicle Seasonal Sharing Fund, for the County Health Systems Agency, for the City of Burlingame, City of Menlo Park, and we are getting calls from other cities, other organizations who are collecting funds believe me, we have the infrastructure and know how to do this successfully. So you don't have to be concerned. We know how to determine who really has the great need and to get it to them appropriately, and all of the financial controls that would back it up. So that's our picture at this time. I don't know if you want to take questions or not, or you want to just move on. That's up to you, Joanne.
Thank you for the update. If anyone has any comments or opportunities in which to respond to Bart right now, let's do that. Otherwise, I'd like to move on to the next organization, understand the situation. We will be updating all of this on our homepage as just kind of a triage sheet, if you will, and keep that as current as possible. I know I'm getting comments from folks saying that they'd like to volunteer and whatnot, so we can get that information back here to the chamber and aggregate it and not necessarily use the time together this morning, if that's fair with everyone. Okay, let's move on. Is there another, are there more questions from any of the other participants? Can you help us understand what you are experiencing and how can we help?
Hey, go ahead.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, I'm John Fanariakis. I'm from Penelope's Coffee and Tea and Sandwich Monkey. We're two local businesses that have been pretty impacted. Thanks, Joanne, for the support. Just like a little background on us, we do multiple things. We also have two types of companies. We have obviously coffee/cafe, where we do a lot of to-go meals, stuff like that. But we also have Sandwich Monkey, and we do a lot of pre-packs and pre-packed sandwiches, and we're FDA certified, all that kind of stuff, which a lot of people don't know that. But our situation pretty much currently is we pretty much let go 90%, 85 to 90% of our staff for now. So it's been quite a bit of an impact. So we are still, you know, the owners are still around, and we do have minimal employees. So, and we want to bring them back. We want to do different stuff. So there is different ideas we have and different offerings we can make. You know, like for instance, we had a thought process of maybe teaming up with the city and the Samaritan House or something, and being able to deliver pre-packed sandwiches. If the city can provide some assistance, along with, you know, helping out Samaritan House and us together, we can make those pre-packed sandwiches. We can deliver those pre-packed sandwiches. We can help everyone, you know. The same thing with Penelope's Coffee. We can deliver pre-packed, you know, paninis and sandwiches and different type of meals that happen. So the whole thing is doing individual meals, and we do have the capability and the FDA approval to do that. And we are willing to give back and do our part in helping out to make this possible in any way. So if there's any county needs for it, if there's any, like say, Samaritan House needs, or if the city has any needs, we are here to help and do whatever we can do. Hello?
Thanks, John. You've been great.
Okay.
Whoops.
Joanne, I was going to suggest that that's a great offering from John. And so if he could put kind of that overview into an email and get it out to us, we can move it up the food chain to see what dollars would be available to support small entities just like that to help with this. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm sure that in all of our communities, we have these type of offerings. And if we can figure out how to get funds to them, that'd be really helpful.
Perfect, Roseanne. That was actually just what I was going to ask. They have been a huge partner with us in doing what we can, but if we could help it scale, just all of the capabilities that they have and certifications, I think really have applicability to a much wider audience, whether it's within our residents that are, if you will, in compromised health, you know, within Foster City, whether it is working with key partners, whether it's helping to work the Rotary. I don't think I have anyone from the Rotary and Lions on this morning, but working with those service organizations. So if there are some opportunities to be able to get some funding too, we have a couple of our businesses. This is one in particular. There's very few that have the capacity and the certifications to be able to do a quick hit. So this will definitely be one that I think that we should talk about after the call.
Great, and I was going to say the same thing. We'd like the same details. I think that's an excellent resource.
Yeah. So I will get those to you and share them accordingly.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Who would like to share what's happening next and how we can help, or what it is that we can do to work together?
Hey everybody, this is Dan Demers. I'm with Hillbarn Theater, a nonprofit here in Foster City. We are currently trying to assess where we're at as a company. We have had throughout our community probably layoffs in the thousands. As you know, it's probably our field is a gig work, mostly economy, that was changed with AB 5. And unfortunately, what happened with the COVID-19 is that you saw a lot of nonprofits and theaters throughout the Bay Area systematically cancel shows, which canceled employment for hundreds, if not thousands of actors, designers, fine artists throughout the Bay Area. So unfortunately, this hit right for us, right when we were launching a show. And so we had to cancel that performance with no future date of reproduction. So my company alone lost somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000 within 24 hours. And we are looking at what will happen down the pipeline for us in regards to future productions and kids camps and all of those programming that we offer to the community. Right now, we've postponed all of our conservatory education programs in hopes that come June or July, the sheltering will be lifted and we can come back and provide an opportunity for those children to enrich their lives through art. So right now, we're kind of trying to assess, but we're banking, or we're asking and requesting a lot of our community and our patrons and for donations. We've created what's called a Sustaining Belief Fund, which will allow people to help keep us going in this dark time. So far we've had some corporations come forward that will offer us some matches, which is great, and we're very thankful. But we're still trying to find ways to operate. So the glass half full side of that equation is I have a lot of individuals who are great on the phone, great face-to-face, great in situations where they need to be, talk to people. I've got, Bart was talking about volunteers. That's something that I would definitely put out to the community, because what we're trying to do is offer many different options for a lot of people to give back in ways that they can, and in some cases find work, because a lot of these actors and people are now without work and are trying to get subsidized through EDD or whatever opportunities they can so that they can survive and don't become homeless. So anything of those natures, if you want, people to be your phone bank, if you want people to call people, be a volunteer, do deliveries, anything like that, I am happy to set up an introduction there or give you a list of names of individuals who are looking for work or looking for volunteer, basically to keep them busy while they continue to try and find opportunities to basically earn pay. So that's kind of how the nonprofit sector is dealing right now. We're all kind of in a panic mode because, as you know, nonprofit, we don't have reserves. We are constantly riding the razor's edge based on our community and the product that we put out. So we're trying to do anything that we can to action our community in a way that will allow them to find opportunities to find work or find opportunities to be helpful to other organizations in which they can be a part of and help. So that's kind of where we're at right now. But I want to thank everybody for being here. I kind of wear two hats, one for Hillbarn Theater and one for the Chamber, and I'm really empowered by the list of people who are in this call. So thank you all so much.
Thanks, Dan. One of the things that I'm really hoping all of us are going to do is start thinking the crazy ideas and assuming that nothing is off limits for how we can do this. So just case in point, one of the things that we've been discussing, Dan and I, is it possible for him to get the licensing, you know, and the royalty rights, in which could we do a telethon? Could we do a virtual telethon? And could we somehow leverage, you know, the resources and reach, you know, Roseanne, that you have, in the event that he has the royalties? You know, could we do something that allows an act, a night for, if you will, a community, you know, night out with neighbors? It's a virtual movie night that could be fee-based and to allocate resources. Crazy ideas, but this is the time to think about them. So anything that anyone can come up with, please share them with us, and we will do our best to sound them out and turn them into anything that is remotely actionable. I see Steve Browning and others on the call. Are there opportunities for us to understand how to help you and the organizations that you are working with?
Hi, Joanne. This is Steve. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, basically, you know, the windsurfing concession and boat rental shop is part of the Foster City Parks and Recs program. So we're following suit with what they've asked us to do and participating with them. So basically, we're closed. That's about as simple as it gets. You know, fortunately, the only people that really impacts is ourselves. And Sue runs the boathouse, but I'm a business consultant. My work continues to go on, at least at the present time, because I work remotely anyway, and I have been for the last 8-9 years. So nothing's really changed for me, other than the clients that I'm servicing have different needs, and some of them may fade out as things change, because I support the event industry to a great deal on the creative side. So as far as where we are personally, with the local shop there in Foster City, is we've put it up on the website, the same statements that the city uses, basically that we're closed in line with their organization, and also letting the people that call in know that not only is our facility closed, but when they get to the park, if they go to the park, because people still do, even though they shouldn't, they will, that the facilities out there are inoperable as well, such as the bathrooms, the rec center. They just need to know they're going into an open range. But for ourselves, we're just going to kind of hunker down, see how we can help, and stay focused on doing what we do best, which is make people happy. I got a feeling when this is over, people are going to want to be outside. You know, we'll try to survive until the wave comes.
Thanks, Steve. One of the things we want to make sure that we offer, and actually I believe Alicia Green is on the line, we have from the chamber side, what we've been trying to do is identify as we go the needs of some of our small businesses, those who are remaining open. We've actually created a digital campaign under the Living Local umbrella, and we are literally daily doing spotlights on all of the businesses, whether the services remain open, if they have been adapted and modified. You know, you just raised a great point. Just because you're closed doesn't mean that we can't, if you will, build momentum and enthusiasm for what's to come. So I'd encourage you, if that's an interest, to reach back out to us so that we can create the appropriate messaging and start to kind of build that momentum, because this is temporary. And you're absolutely right. There are going to be some recreational activities that all of us are going to need sooner than later. And I don't want anyone to think just because their doors are currently closed right now for day-to-day operating, that means that there's no way in which for us to help the continuity of the business operations. So please don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll be happy to work with you to figure out how best we can support that.
Joanne, I'll close my part here by saying I had this really nice conversation with an individual that I look up to greatly. And they gave us an analogy. She said, you know, if you lived in Florida, you know, every year a hurricane is going to come. And so when you live in an area where there's a storm, you learn to prepare for a storm. And you know, when the storm passes, the neighborhood is going to be devastated. Businesses are going to be damaged, but people are going to rebuild. And said, so this is a storm. We just need to understand this is a storm. You know, Foster City has been prudent in preparing in their emergency preparedness for a storm. Well, one is here. And now it's good to know that this community, you know, is prepared for such a thing. And I think as individuals, what you do is you look at what is the opportunity after the storm, not what is the challenge that we're facing during the storm. Right now it's survival, and that's what everybody tries to cling to. but what's beyond the storm. And let's try to get some positive information out there, some encouraging words that people can actually see beyond the current circumstances. And I think that'll be beneficial. So thanks for the invitation to be here this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you. Who else? We've lost the screen. Have I lost the screen?
Nope, you're still there.
Don.
Thanks, Joanne. Just a couple additions to Roseanne's report based on the calls that we have every day with the county. The county is looking for any medical personnel, retired nurses, retired doctors, retired lab techs, anyone. So I'm not sure, how you put the word out for that, but they are desperate for medical personnel. They are running out of gloves, masks, and gowns across the healthcare system in San Mateo County. So I know Genentech has been contacted. I imagine Gilead has been contacted directly by the Department of Public Health. But Joanne, you may just want to push that one up the food chain, as I'm sure you have already. I know that John is on the call. They are also actively looking for entire hotel properties to contract for homeless housing, to transfer uninfected patients who no longer need to be in the hospital, but maybe aren't quite ready to go home. And then obviously for infected patients who aren't sick enough to be in the hospital. But they are signing contracts with entire hotels right now. The question of commercial construction is one that continues to be pushed on. So all residential construction is deemed essential and allowed to continue. Commercial construction has not been deemed essential yet. There are lots of folks who are pushing on that issue and that question. One, because a commercial construction site, could be looked at as even safer than a residential construction site in terms of worker proximity. And then also the more people we can keep employed, the less people who are going to need to access government programs and safety net programs throughout this crisis. So to the extent that you have members who are general contractors or members who are in the midst of construction projects, I know Mike Futrell in South San Francisco is pushing pretty hard on this. So Dante, if this is an issue in Foster City, you may want to reach out to Mike and his team. The county, Samsita is supporting the county, Steven, to your point, to try to begin to work quickly on public messaging and public information campaigns that are about pushing out information, and also we're going to attempt to try and find some local celebrities or high profile individuals to just do campaigns that say, we're going to be okay, we're going to get through this. Government, business, and nonprofits are working together. So that is in the works. And then I'll report out that there was a conference call yesterday at 3 p.m. with the county manager's office and I think 18 of the 21 mayors in San Mateo County regarding the issue of suspending evictions. So I know this is a very complicated issue, and there are nuances between a large market rate apartment building and a small building owned by a senior couple who rely on that money for income. Where it's at right now is these 18 mayors had a consensus that they will look to the county to take the lead on this and draft an ordinance that would apply countywide, and that they do not want to do this one city at a time. And right now it's focused on residential and not focused on commercial. So I will stop there and see if there's any questions.
Also, one of the things, this is Roseanne again, one of the things the county is working on is a volunteer landing page. Because thank you to the gentleman at Hill Barn, that is something that the county knows is really important at this point, to get opportunities out to people. So as soon as we have more information on that, again, we will pass it along. There was a number available yesterday for folks, for medical personnel. That number got inundated, so I believe that they have suspended it. So they're trying to figure out a way to get another avenue up for the outreach for medical personnel. Again, working on it. We'll get the information to you. And we are just going to keep pushing everything we push on our website. We have links to all of the chambers of commerce, and we have links to all of the communities, because one of the big questions that came up with the residential housing construction was, well, my city's planning and building department is closed. And so we recognize that. With some of our smaller cities, it's very hard to staff that. So we're trying to sort through the information to know kind of who's open, who's not. There's also a statewide effort to really get this commercial construction issue solved, and more to come.
Joanne, I did have a question. Maybe it's, I don't know if it's Don or Roseanne. So we've been tracking the residential eviction process and been part of the discussion. Is anybody talking about the preventing commercial evictions? And maybe if you have any insight on the complexity of that, or if anybody in any of the counties is working on that.
So Dante, I had a call late yesterday afternoon about that, and actually about the residential evictions. And the county is really stepping carefully, both in residential. Commercial is not a part of it. And it's not a part of it right now because they cannot seem to make a legal case that it is a health and safety issue. So what we're trying to figure out is how to work with landlords on commercial evictions. One of the things with the residential issue is that moving away kind of from a countywide ordinance to a template. So the county would put in an ordinance that would be for unincorporated areas. It would give a template to the 20 other jurisdictions. With the residential eviction, the landlords, especially the small ones, are like, we could handle a 30-day eviction, but we can't go beyond that because our reserves wouldn't be able to support it. So that's a big unknown right now. And as we gather more information on it, San Francisco, because it's a city and county, put in 6 months. That is going to adversely affect a lot of mom and pop landlords. And we don't know if that's going to remain or not. And the county is being very cautious in this because we have a number of duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, 20 units. I mean, the large residential, it's a little different on what they can absorb. So more to come.
Well, I know that cities like Menlo Park, they're looking at like a stimulus package. We're looking to see what we can do to help our businesses, including, you know, any funds that may be available. Something we're running into is we have this additional kind of criteria of making sure that we're using public funds for public uses. So some of our funding is not really available for those type of things. I know you started off initially, Roseanne, talking about some of the funds that the county might be putting together for San Mateo Strong. Would some of these funds be eligible for that? And by that, what I mean is maybe there's a subsidy that's provided to allow the business to stay in their space and allows the landlord to be made whole for a period of time.
Actually, Dante, it covers both of that. So the fund for small businesses would cover operations, so rent, utilities, and payroll. And we're looking at a grant, not a loan, because there's been some banks out there kind of thinking about low interest loans, and that's great too. I mean, we need it all, but ours is specifically grant related and to keep operations. And then also kind of the second piece of that, which we floated 2 days ago, was the idea of keeping landlords whole. So you kind of get both. So all of this is great. This is great input because we can go back and say, yes, this would be of interest.
And so we could talk about this offline, but this is kind of exciting. We might want to think about, you know, if cities had the opportunity to contribute to that fund for that purpose, you know, if administration was going to be handled, I'm not sure the logistics, but I think that would be something that could benefit a lot of our businesses here. But we can talk about it more offline.
And Dante, one of the things, actually, Joanne, one of the things I wanted to mention is what we're trying to do is do all the funding, back office funding through Silicon Valley Community Foundation, because they're set up for this.
Perfect.
And so some other cities have thought about, oh, we should start our own fund, we should do this. But I will tell you, raising money and tracking it, especially in this kind of situation, and Don could reference what happened with the Red Cross and Hurricane Katrina. We do not want to do that. And I've been very clear with folks regarding CMCTA is when you have an entity like Silicon Valley Community Foundation, you can use their platform and just leverage off of it. And I think it would be really good for all of our communities to support that effort.
Perfect. Thank you.
So I want to jump in on this one because there are additional questions. The concept is a really good one, and we definitely want to be a part of the conversation with both of you, Dante, Roseanne. One of the things that our major employers, and I'm just going to say, and I had shared this with Dante, our major employers want to understand what are the needs of our community. They are spending their time and their resources struggling as much as our small businesses. They just happen to have different resources and scale. If they understand what it is that they can do and where and how they can engage, they are absolutely available to us for those discussions and to act. So in the case of what you're suggesting, Dante, if it was that the city of Foster City was to, pledge 5 million, 10 million, whatever the dollars, I'm just picking numbers, are, that gives us a real opportunity to say, great, who are the stakeholders? Where and which can we match? No different than the principles that we're trying to apply, if you will, in the nonprofit from a grant perspective that both Bart and Dan had shared with us. Margie, are you still on? You had a question about hourly jobs, and I think your question is a good one. If you're here, I'd like to ask you to chime in.
Yes. Hi. Good morning, everyone. I'm the executive director of the leadership program for our local 4 cities, and Karin Hardy's also on this call. And the question I had, I've just been hearing on the news that there are some industries that are looking to hire people. I guess Amazon and grocery stores, some of these essential businesses are being overwhelmed. And so my question was, is there a way to get that information out for people who are in hourly jobs so that we can maybe start matching them with these opportunities? Again, these would be people, more on the poverty line.
Yes, and we're collecting data. Any of those ads that we see, we are collecting. And so you'll see, because I think, Margie, that's great. And honestly, the more that we can connect people and what hourly jobs are available. So anything you see, feel free to send it over. We will push it out. Again, we are going to leverage off of every chamber's website, put information on theirs, have our link, we have your link. And Samaritan House's link is going up shortly. So we're going to make sure we're kind of all linked, all the information exists, and pushing out that messaging.
Thank you.
This is Nathan here. Can I just give my 2 minutes of just 2 cents? And I appreciate everyone being here, and I appreciate it. I just figured it was a good time to jump in with Donna and Margie both talking about hotels and hourly workers. We own several hotel properties in Foster City and San Mateo. And as a result of this, obviously, business has been difficult. Our hotel occupancy has dropped to about 10%, 10 to 15% across our properties. And we have been reaching out to see if perhaps they can be repurposed into sort of quarantine apartments, or however we're terming those. On a practical side of things, one of our properties we've already had to let go, furlough is I guess the politically nice word, but we'd had to furlough about 100% of our hourly workers. And our managers have all been taking essentially a 20% pay cut. And, at this point, the managers are running the property. the only people that are the only sort of business that's sustaining the hotels right now essentially are airline crew that fly into San Francisco. We service like, you know, ANA and all these other places, all these other sort of airlines. And once we predict that those airlines will eventually stop flying into SFO for a while. Once that stops, the hotel business will completely stop in San Mateo County. There's just no income. And so if there's anything that we can do for our property, if we can donate our in terms of parking lot space or the rooms for quarantine use, you know, please reach out to me and let me know. Otherwise, these properties will be sitting sort of unused until the sort of travel economy picks up again.
Nathan, I'm glad you chimed in. Thank you. I actually didn't, there's a lot on the call. One of the things that while others are kind of queuing up some additional questions, one of the things Roseanne and Dante in particular is there is a deluge of information that is out there, and we are all doing our best to take the learnings that you are packaging and, if you will, make them available. But I'm going to speak as a practitioner. Navigating to get to an answer, to a question, to an action is painful. I think one of the opportunities I'm hearing from these calls, and for the benefit of all, we are planning on doing this as a recurring standing meeting every week at the same time for as long as we need to do this with you all, so that there's a face-to-face conduit, as well as being available in other, you know, channels. But what I think would be really great is taking the priorities of kind of the whole and getting to an action, if you will. So here's an opportunity. We have a hotel that's in distress. Please identify the ways in which this hotel in distress can be leveraged, whether it is within Foster City or outside of Foster City. And if you would, work with us to help understand how to work with that business to create what is necessary to sustain that operation, to retool that operation. One of the other things that we've heard on this call is in-kind supplies. You know, we think that our nonprofits, I believe Bart was one of the first individuals to say in-kind supplies, but I spoke with Visa yesterday and they cannot find cleaning supplies. Purell is non-existent to them. So, you know, do we go to one of our biotechs and pharmaceutical companies and say, hey, can you build us a, you know, Chamber Cares, you know, version of Purell? Or is there a way in which for us to do an aggregate buy for the city of Foster City, whether it be for residents, whether it be for small businesses, whether it be for large employers? How can we get access to these types of things? The volunteer labor sounds like we've got an opportunity. So things like that, I think the role that the Chamber wants to play and is capable of playing is facilitating the discussions with the right people to get to yeses or nos. Because what we're hearing is, you know, is there enough information out there? That was one of the questions. We would like everyone's confirmation. Is it too much information? Does the information need to be packaged in a different way so that it is easier to digest and understand? That is the type of input that if you can provide to us, then we can spend our time retooling that and refining it for you. Let's move to somebody else. Anybody else on the Daniel or Alicia? I'm scrolling through. Sanjay, I believe you're on the call, just as a business owner, if nothing else, to help us understand, you know, the challenges that you're experiencing. Anybody?
I'll chime in.
Okay.
I know I'm listening to everybody's challenges, and I don't really have much to offer as a marketer, but as someone that's working with the Chamber on disseminating information, if there's a way that I can help, albeit a press release or maybe just some advice on what to do, I would love feedback or requests, and I'll do what I can. So I just want to put that out there.
Thank you for that offer, and the self-deprecating comment that you can't do much is completely unfounded. Alicia Green and her business Hendrix has literally jumped in with the chamber, and what we've been doing with her is literally developing content pieces to push through social media and marketing campaigns, knowing that our small businesses do not have the resources or the time right now. So we are doing a specific Living Local digital marketing campaign that Alicia is working with us on the content. One by one, as we learn our restaurants' doors are open, what their adapted services are, what their hours are, we are pushing it out. We are sharing that with the city of Foster City. They are sharing it with their channels that reach into the residential community base. So do not underestimate the power that Alicia Green has. And if there is a way in which we can scale that, that is something that I encourage us all to try to consider. I believe, so thank you, Alicia. Melvin, if you're still on the call, I want to ask you to share a different perspective as a major employer to help us kind of understand what it is that COVID-19, very briefly, and the impacts on kind of just your operations and the way in which the organization is working. You still there? I see you. Okay, we will move on.
Joanne, maybe in the interest of time, I think we should try to bring the call to a close so that we can all get working on this. How would that sound?
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with that. I just want to be able to do what is necessary. One of the things that's most important is if you would all, and we were going to be sharing this again, we have developed a questionnaire. You know, are you getting enough information to make good decisions? We need to know. What questions do you need help getting answered? What are the top business continuity concerns, et cetera? We will be redistributing this in a much wider format. But for now, if you would, Roseanne, Dante, what do you see as the high priority from this call that we can immediately work with collectively? I know I have a list. What do you see as the next steps?
Well, I'll start. For us, it's really assessing the needs. And, you know, we're actually, because we're a small community, we have the ability to almost go small business by small business. We have a limited number of shopping centers. We want to understand what the needs are so that we can best align our resources to that. So filling out the survey, any other comments, we want to know, even though it's still kind of early in this crisis, we want to know what the actual impact is going to be for our businesses so that we can do things that are of the greatest value.
Thank you.
So I think from our perspective, we are going to continue to work on the financial piece. I mean, that is really critical at this point for nonprofits, for small and large businesses, for what we talked about earlier. We want to focus on what are all the financial stimulus packages coming out? How do we access them? How do we push the information out to the communities? How do we get the San Mateo County Strong Fund up? How do we triage all of that, get it out there? Figure out about scaling different pieces of this. So, but the financial need in the basically short, medium, and long term is our focus, and then the information. And then each community, each chamber will disseminate as appropriate.
Thank you for that.
One other thing, Joanne, just before we close, is as these stimulus packages kind of flow through, we'd like to shift to be able to help, you know, some of our businesses, because we have some mom and pops businesses who may not be familiar with going through a process and application. We'd like to perform some type of kind of ombudsman assistance to help those businesses through that.
Much appreciated. What we will be doing is oh, who was that?
I was actually going to suggest to Nathan at the hotels in Foster City to coordinate with John Hutar at the Convention and Visitors Bureau. John actually is the one who has the numbers for San Mateo County and Santa Clara County for hotel needs, both in short and medium term. So I think if we put all the hotel folks together, that would allow them, we can help with the financial piece with the hourly employees and all of those type of stimulus, and then, but the immediate needs for the hotels, because the county is making every effort to get folks out of shelters that are healthy enough to move them into hotels so that we can get any and all homeless off the streets. All of the quarantines that are happening, they're going to need places for them. We have the USS, either Comfort or Mercy, that is on its way from San Diego that'll be posted in the Bay Area. There's one going to New York. It's the military Red Cross ship. And so there is a need for hotels. So I'm going to ask John to kind of work with all the hotels to help with that piece of it.
Thank you. We have a list of takeaways from this call. Again, whether it be volunteers, whether it be in-kind services, whether it be commercial impact grants, etc. We'll pull that together. Our website, our homepage is going to be a landing page. Our social media, because things are happening so quickly, following us and sharing is probably the best because the situation is fluid and is adapting every single day. I want to give some deference. I believe that I have Sanjay and Sam on the call. Before we close, I don't know if there's any comments that either of you want to make, but otherwise, this will be a standing recurring meeting and we will get that information out. If this has been helpful, we would actually really like you to let us know because obviously everyone's time is valuable and we want to make sure that we can get you to actionable information and content.
Hey, Joanne, it's Sanjay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, all right. Sorry about the audio issues earlier. You know, as a council member in Foster City, I want to applaud your efforts, the staff's efforts, in partnership with Sam Ceda, everyone that's on the call that's focusing on their community. To really identify what individuals, what businesses need so that we can come out of this stronger together on the other side. This is an unprecedented challenge for our communities. And so I'm really optimistic about the best in all of us is going to come out of this. And I appreciate everything that you guys are doing to help those in need. As a small business owner, I'm a franchisor of preschools. We have schools in 8 states, and 60% of the schools that my franchisees are operating have been shut down. And so we're not only looking at us as a franchisor and the 23 employees that we have here in Foster City and around the Bay Area, and how we're going to help them get through this difficult time, but we're also looking at our franchisees and how we're going to help them get through this difficult time, and then their employees. So, you know, getting access to funding, understanding what tools you have in your toolbox to help you quickly get through this time is going to be super important and super valuable, I think, to small businesses because things are changing on a day-to-day basis. And so, you know, as we can get the best information at hand, the most accurate information at hand in a timely fashion to those in need, I think is going to be the most valuable outcome. So I want to thank you all again. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to speak, Joanne.
Thank you. Are there any last comments from anybody before we kind of round out?
Thank you, everyone, for putting this together. Thank you, Joanne, for getting everything together. And this has been helpful. I look forward to talking every week. And
great.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Roseanne. Thank you, Dante. And thank you, everyone. We will be in touch very soon. And we're in it together. So let's just take it one step at a time. Thanks so much for your time. And we will get back to you as soon as we can. See you later.